class. The build is done. Let's get straight into it. Okay, so I'd like to get the arms installed on the Beast class. Before I do that, I'm going to prep the airfoils. And these have a top and a bottom, but we'll get into it a little bit later. These are held on by double stack tape, so let's get that ready to roll. Okay, so what I have done here is went and stickied. This is the double-sided, this is almost like a VHB tape. They call this brand something a little bit different just because it is a different brand than 3M. I have a feeling though it's VHB tape, just with a different name. So I did that on the pointed ones. I did the VHB tape and then a strip of this other stuff here. So this is a 1/2 inch and this is a 1/4 inch. So I'm gonna put those off to the side. So we're gonna grab 8 of these screws. These are the largest screw in the kit, and they turn with a 3mm hex head. So we're just going to grab 2, and we're going to grab 1 arm. And you'll notice these 2 larger screw holes. We're going to line our motor up with those, flip the craft upside down, and then stick these screws through the bottom. And you'll notice that these are fairly tight inside of these arms, so you might actually have to push these in a way and try to screw them in place after the fact. Okay, once those are through, we can grab our top plate. And I'm going to go ahead and clip this antenna in place right now while it's easily accessible. We're going to lay the top plate right in a position. And then go ahead and screw these in. So as they're in, we can snug them down. Actually, because we still have to put standoffs in here, I'm not going to snug these down. That doesn't make sense to do that now. As long as they're screwed in, we should be good. And then that'll give us enough slack to get our standoffs in there. Okay, so now that that is installed, I'm going to repeat the process for the remaining 3 arms. So once we get the motor screws in place, we want to put our remaining standoffs in place. The center ones, we're going to do something a little bit different, so we're just going to go with these outside 4 first. We want to grab the 25mm standoffs, and we want to grab the 10mm cap head screws. These turn with a 2.5mm hex driver. So we're just going to take this guy and hold it in place here and run this cap screw in. And just snug that in place. Okay, so now that we have our 4 corner standoffs in place, we're going to go and install the battery tray or the battery plate. This is where you're going to put your Velcro strapping material for the 2 batteries. And take note that one side has a rounded edge. The sides of this have this elongated hole here, and then the front of it has this flat section. The front of the quad here is this way. The back of the quad has the antenna. So this is going to sit right here. And one thing to note is we don't want this to sit flat on the base of the quad. We'd never get our strapping material through this. So we want this elevated just a little bit. And to do that, Catalyst Machineworks supplies us with 6 of these. These are 6mm nylon bushing, and these are going to go right over the 6 standoff holes remaining. So we've got 4 there, 1 there, and 1 there. So a total of 6. So we have 6 of these nylon bushings. Now they also supply us with these guys. There's 6 of these. These are 16mm button head. And we use these to protect the battery once these are in place. We don't want cap head screws sitting directly underneath our battery. Those will chew directly into it. So the button head is the better choice here. So we want to grab 6 of the button head screws. We want to grab 6 of the nylon bushings and 6 of our 25mm standoffs. So to do that, grab 1 of each right now. I'm going to take our battery plate, have that close. We're going to start with this guy here. Place our nylon bushing right on top. Grab our screw and place that right through the battery tray, right through the bushing, and through the hole in the frame. The next ones I'm going to do are right there. Okay, so a special note about these two do not receive a standoff, so I was going nuts looking for extra standoffs, and you don't need them. So I've taken my nylon bushing, placed it here, got a 16 millimeter screw, and I've got my 25 millimeter standoff that I'm gonna run up the arm here and try to hold in place. This is kind of a tight spot here. And to make this a little easier, just kind of grab your nut driver and use that to run it in instead of trying to fiddly screw with it with your finger. Okay, so the difference with these two, we're going to take our bushing, we're going to take our 16 millimeter screws, then we're going to put a nut on the back side. Actually, let me see if there are not. Okay, so the one thing I would do differently here is I don't like the 16 mil screw there, but that's fine, whatever. So we take our bushing, place it underneath our plate, line up our hole, 16 mil screw straight through, and then take our lock nut and place this guy right underneath and screw in place. And hold it in place with some pliers and cinch her down. And repeat the process over here with this one. Okay, that's our battery plate installed. Now we can flip this over and run our screws on top. Also pay special attention back here. This is where we're going to install the crossfire antenna holder, so we're not going to run those in quite yet. And before we cinch these down all the way, I want to cinch the actual motor screws down first, those giant ones. Make sure everything's seated nicely before these go. I'm going to take my 3mm Allen key and we're going to run these all the way down. And I'm going to go in a star pattern with these, sort of. And this is just to make sure that all the plates kind of sit flat. Right now what's going on is some of the arms are like this, where the plate is like this. So we kind of want to make sure everything meshes like this. We also want to kind of look around and make sure we're not pinching any wires in between the arms and the frame. Once we got all those tight, I'm just going to go in a pattern like this just to double check. Okay, those are all set. Now that those are set, I'm going to go through each of these screws here and make sure that these are all cinched down. They should be at this point, but just in case. Okay, now we can move to the top of the quad and we can begin installing the standoff screws on the top. I've already installed these 4. There's 4 per arm. This arm here, I am going to wait on these 2. That's where I'm going to install the crossfire antenna. Once these are installed, you can crank these down. And these are just into aluminum standoffs, so you don't need to get too crazy. The arms are already held in place by those giant screws. So while we're here, we can plug in all our peripherals.
USB cord. It's always on the third flip that it goes in. Fuck. Kidding me? There we go, whatever.
So back here, we have these 3D printed pieces. These go a little bit differently, so we can place this here, or we can place this here. Okay, so with this, it comes with, these look like 12 millimeter. Let's see. Yeah, these are about 12 millimeter cap head screws, 2 washers, and 2 aluminum bushings. These aluminum bushings go right inside of here. And this is set up in such a way that when you cinch this down, this doesn't crunch the TPU. So what we do is we place the aluminum bushings through here, then we can place on top the washer, and then we can place the screw straight through that. And then that will take place in our standoff hole instead of our usual cap head screws. And realistically, I feel like our normal cap head screws will still work too, but let's go ahead and tighten these guys down now. And finally, we can place these 2 screws in this corner. Okay, once those are set, these are 4-inch zip ties. And the way this works is we put our crossfire antenna like this, and we want to take this, you can see a little slot right through there. We can zip that through there, bring it across the top, and just give it a couple clicks. Same thing with this one. We are going to stick it through there, bring it through, and just cinch it down a little bit. Then we can position our antenna, hold it in place, and cinch these guys down. Just like so. Once we have this cinched down as much as we think we need, then we can cut the slack off of these. And this whole thing will pull up enough for you so you can really get in there and clip it close. Just like that, crossfire antenna is installed. You can put a little dab of automotive silicone to hold the antenna in place. So now that the crossfire antenna is installed, we want to grab our airfoils. These are the rounded section with the slot in the middle. This is going to go right over our motor wire, just like that. And we're going to split the gap from here to here. And I also think what I'm going to do is, once that's in place, I'm going to place a zip tie right up close to the frame, just to hold this wire. Then I can take this wire around the corner and land it on an ESC. But for right now, I'm going to put this guy in place. To do that, I like the sharp tweezers. You can really just kind of stick it right in between the sticky and the tape backing, and just kind of open it up enough so that you can grab it. Once you can do that, oops, yeah, don't screw up your sticky, and definitely don't stab yourself. So once you get it started, we're pretty good. There we go. Go ahead and pull these off. And we want to kind of cinch this wire up and get it right in between. And then, like I said, we want to kind of split this gap. And line it up and cinch it down. I'm going to repeat this process for the remaining 3 arms. Okay, that's all 4 placed. I want to go back and speak briefly about the crossfire antenna placement and the reason why I put it on the top of the quad rather than the bottom. The bottom of the quad, it's apt to hit the ground, it's going to get caught in grass, and it could bend these antennas. And being a dipole like this, you want them to stay in this orientation. To bend them and whatnot is not going to help. Furthermore, I like it on the top better than on the bottom, and I'll use these guys to represent the quad for this example. So as you're flying, you're going to fly like this. With the antenna on the bottom, flying away from yourself, you're going to have a nice straight signal. The issue that you're going to have when you turn around and fly back, now you've got to get around the carbon too. And I know that this sticks out, but some of the carbon is going to be on the way, some of the ESCs are going to be in the way, so you're actually going to have less signal coming back for just for that brief moment where you spin around and come back towards yourself. Now, in this case, the antenna's on top, so now you're flying away from yourself. Your signal is going to be in this orientation. When you start to lose signal and you spin the craft around, now you have direct line of sight back to the antenna with nothing in the way. I mean, the props might come over that. So that's why I went with it on the top like this. So you can put it where you want. I don't really think it matters that much, but I weighed the options and that's where I ended up putting it. So that's on that. The next thing that I would like to do is these wires coming out of the motors here are going to go right here to these ESCs. And just to kind of hold them together a little bit, I'm going to kind of fold them to where I want them, and then probably about an inch out of this airfoil, I'm going to take another 4-inch zip tie and just kind of wrap this around here just to hold them together, and that'll make it a little bit neater once we land our wires for the ESCs. So just cinch that there, and then now once we do this, this will stay in place. So with that in place, I am going to kind of measure out with a little bit of slack each of these wires to where they'll land nicely on the pads, and take into account how much you're going to strip back. Once you kind of get that aligned, go ahead and cut your wires. And make sure you get it right, because we're cutting a lot off. So that's going to go on the first. This is going to go on the second. And finally, this one's going to go down on the third. I'm going to remove this ESC, and so I want to avoid landing this inside of the TPU. I don't want to melt it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-tin these pads out here, and then I'm going to try to place this kind of in the TPU like this, and then try to land the motor wires outside of this TPU, giving it time to cool off. This is not going to allow me to get close enough otherwise. So just be aware of that. I think something like this will work, and then I can kind of safely land these here. And then once that has cooled off, then we can put the ESC back into the TPU. I'm going to place this here and grab this guy to hold it while they solder it. And to do that, I'm going to change tips to the, this is a T15 D32, and this will give me as much heat as I need for these joints. Also going to strip these. These are 14 gauge wire, and I want about a 1/4 inch stripped. And just so that this guy's out of the way, I'm going to cut this off as well. Alright, let's get these pre-tinned. Okay. So next I want to bring this in really as close as I can get it. Okay, so that is one motor completely installed. I'm going to repeat that process for the remaining 3. So I've gone ahead and landed all my motor wires onto the ESCs. What I'm going to do now is go through and conformal coat all of the edges of those ESCs where I have landed those wires. And then that will have those ESCs 100% coated again. I believe I've stressed the importance of making sure that these are all coated very well. Catalyst Machineworks landed in some dew, if I haven't mentioned that yet, and fried an ESC, and these are not cheap. This entire craft is not cheap, so we want to make certain that we don't allow that to happen. So I'm just going to hit both the front and the back just in case the heat has melted off anything underneath as well. So once we've fully coated our ESCs and we're comfortable with where they're at, while this is drying, now is a good time to put our airfoils on the bottom of the quad. So these guys are going to go right here in between the base plate and the motor mount, and we're just going to kind of split the difference between the gap over here and the gap over here. It's not that important to get just right, but if you are OCD, you might want to measure. Just to compare these two tapes, I know I had mentioned they may or may not be different. They look identical, so I think just one is an off-brand, so they're not calling it VHB tape. So that's what I think the difference is. It's just a name brand versus a no-name brand. And just we want to really press this on here. My thought with these is I almost feel that Catalyst should have made, or still could make, just kind of a hole here and then another hole on the bottom, well in this case in the top, just so you can put a zip tie that would wrap the whole arm through each of these, and then we kind of hold it in place in addition to this tape that we're using. And I think that would really hold these on a little bit better in the event of a crash. So I may suggest that to them, I don't know, but they have a lot more experience right now with these crafts than I do, so yep. So again, we're over here. Sorry, this is a little out of frame. This thing has gotten huge, so forgive me if It's occasionally out of frame what I'm working on. Oh, just stick that right on there. So once we've got our 4 airfoils on, our conformal coating should be dry, so we can go and land our ESCs in place. And then once those are in place, we can take a zip tie here and we're just going through these 2 holes here and then zipping down. And actually I might need longer than these. No, this should do. This should do. Okay. We don't need to get too crazy with this. We just want to cinch this kind of flat. That hurt. And clip it. We're going to repeat this for the 4 of them. Okay, that's one side complete. I'm going to go ahead and do these off camera and get right back with you. Whew. All right, so those are our ESCs landed back in the TPU mounts. We can flip this craft over and we have a few more screws to land. So we want to find, I believe these are 10 millimeter. I wouldn't really call these self-tapping screws, but sort of. Grab those guys and grab a Phillips head. And these we're going to run into our ESC holders on the top. This could have been done earlier. I did not. And the reason I had not is because I wasn't sure if the ESC mounts would be a pain to get the ESC into and out of. I don't think it would, but I just didn't feel that it was necessary to put them in, so I waited till last. And there are 4 of these, so we just run around and drop them all in. And these are only going into TPU, so they're only going to get snug. They're not actually going to stop. If you keep on turning, you're just going to weaken the TPU that you're screwing into, so you don't need to be an animal with these. Okay, and lastly, this one here is right next to the crossfire mount. You can actually just push the crossfire mount over and run the screw right next to it. And I'll get my hands out of the way to show you that in a moment. So this is kind of in the way here. You can actually just push this way. Because there's bushings under this, it's got some flex to it, so it's not an issue. So if you wanted to keep this from moving around and running along the edge, I guess you could put like a dot of hot glue just to hold it in place. I'm not going to do that. I don't see it chafing that much. So that's our ESC screws. All the screws on top are tightened down from earlier. The next thing that we want to do is install this, I'll call it the Gopro plate. I don't have a GoPro mount to put on this, so I'm gonna have to get one. This guy, you can see this flat section with these 2 little nubs. These 2 little nubs accommodate this camera bracket, and then this back kind of beveled edge is the back. So this just sits right there. This plate installs with these same 10mm cap head screws. Just place them in the holes for now, just so we don't lose them. The reason being is we still got to get in here to tune this, and I need to be like able to see the reel pit, make sure that's turning on. I need to be able to see the VTX, so I'm not going to put that on yet. I'm also not going to put the antenna on because I got to flip this over and we got to get the battery straps in place. Catalyst Machineworks did not send us battery straps with this, so I have some laying around. These are 5-inch quad battery straps. They're about 210 millimeters. So they'll work, but they're not long enough. In a 6S battery, as you can see, we want to use this inside hull and this outside hull. And the easiest way that I find to do this is, again, with one of these pairs of tweezers. There's two ways. You can slide this under and grab it from the top, or what you can do, and this way is a little bit harder, slide it through and push it up from the bottom. Once you do that, pull it most, if not all the way through, and just let it sit there. Then go ahead and grab another. We're putting the rubberized side up. Just again, slide this through. Go ahead and grab it, and then pull it most of the way through. So in the event that this is happening, take your battery plate and stick it kind of in the hole there. Get your strap started, and then you can go ahead and run it through without the Velcro grabbing it. Actually, this is a Gopro plate, but you get the point. And then once you get it started, this changes from the hook to the loop, and you can pull it through with no problems. And then pull them down so they meet one another, just like that. Same thing here. We're gonna put our GoPro plate right here, and then that provides us a nice firm surface to slide the hook section without getting it attached to the loop section below. Okay, get it to that point and just go ahead and grab it with the tweezers. And now we can pull this out and pull this into position there. Just like that. Balance lead through there, and loop our battery here. And snug her down. Once that's complete there, flip it over. And we can straighten the battery out after we get that in place. Same thing here. Now, because we're going to be putting these batteries up against one another, it's going to be easiest to try to loop this through before we mash them together. And this is where a longer battery strap is definitely going to come in handy. These are too short, but you can get it at least started like that, and then deal with your wiring after. So as far as this guy, I want this here, and then this here, just like that. This can come over here, and then I've got this wire left. So this one, I think, will probably do us best. Kind of left out. Like so. Sorry about that. As you can see, with these battery straps facing in one another like this, it's not terribly easy, but it does work. Put a balance through there to capture that. Okay, so that's our batteries installed. I would reroute this one a little bit differently, but I don't like it sitting right on top there. We do want to actually trace to make certain our connections are correct when we're doing a connection like this. So we've got our ground wire out across here into this battery. Then we got our positive wire out to this wire. This should be the positive in, excuse me, the negative in on this battery, which it is. And then we've got the positive out of this battery to the positive of the craft. So all things being good, we should be able to plug this in and listen to some cool new beeps. Oh, that's cool. And as you can see, we've got everything working here. The VTX doesn't have an antenna on it. It's not needed. It's got a protection in the VTX to keep it from melting. I highly suggest not doing this with other VTXs, but I'm going to throw an antenna on it. And that should satisfy it. So everything is working. I'm going to show you how to set all this up. But this is cool. The fact that it doesn't sit properly because it's sitting on top of the batteries, I'm not exactly happy with. But wow, it's for all intents and purposes, the actual building process is done. So let's go check this thing out the only way that I know how to show you properly. This thing is massive, absolutely massive. Holy. It's so big. It's so big. Guys, I didn't think we were gonna complete that project. It just kept on going and going and going. I mean, 6 videos to get that build out, and they're not short videos. They're all like, what, an hour long, 45 minutes long? Holy, that is a very large undertaking. But we are complete, and I can't wait to get this guy on the bench and show you guys how to set up Betaflight and how to set up all those cool things that we actually put on this quad. We got the GPS on there, we got the Pinot switch on there. There's just a bunch of cool stuff on there that I want to show you guys how to do. The other thing, and a special note, I do need to clarify, when I put those motors on, I used the supplied screws that came with the motors. Don't do this. In the packaging, I noticed that Catalyst Machineworks had supplied us with a button head screw that is the same length. Use that one instead. What I'm running into is if you have the arm here and the motor here, the supplied motor nuts with the motors are actually touching the frame rail, and the actual motor, the motor plate is kind of flexing downwards because those screws, the cap heads that came with the motors, are just a little too long. So definitely use those ones that Catalyst has supplied. I'm gonna have to go back through and pull all these motors off and change those over. I'm not gonna show you that because, well, I've already showed you how to put those screws in and how to use the Loctite. So just know that I'm switching that over. I'm not doing it exactly as I showed you in the past. So special note there. So is 6 videos too much for the hardware of this portion of the build? I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, click that thumbs up button. And if you haven't done it already, just go ahead and punch that subscribe button because you only get to do it once and it's fun, and I'll catch you later. Peace.